So these lovely ladies are Kelsey Hyberg and Jaime Rosenzweig. They're the co-founder of Fridays and former marketing VPs behind the explosive growth of Relatable. So that's formerly What Do You Meme, where they help scale the brand to over 100 million in revenue and category leader status. So today they advise brands across CPG categories like beauty, wellness, toy and games, as well as helping teams sharpen strategy, streamline spend, and unlock major growth and profitability. Their approach is rooted in experience, instinct, and the system behind what makes brands go viral, not just once, but again and again. So, super, super excited to dive into this today and to hear everything that you have to share with the Oko Assembly community.
Thank you so much for that introduction. So, yes, we are going to be chatting about the viral formula today, how to build systems for repeatable viral success. And just really quickly to give a little overview, I am Jaime, and that is Kelsey. And we are ex-CPG VPs. We have, it says 25 plus years of experience, but I calculated it the other day and we're actually coming up on 30 years of experience together in marketing and brand building. And we have been a partnership for 13 years. We actually met at our first job and have done lots of things together ever since. We'll let you kind of go over our experience more in depth on your own time if you want to, but essentially we kind of specialize in growth and turnaround for disruptive brands, primarily in the 10 to $150 million a year revenue range. And we've built teams, we've been technical marketing specialists ourselves. And we have over the years kind of specialized in working with clients that are distributed between D2C and retail and kind of driving sales and success with digital first and retail minded strategies that work for both.
And Jamie is going to be graciously leading the presentation for us. Just like as a little note, I am 2 weeks away from my due date. So I'm in the phase of pregnancy right now where I like to call the sitting down in the shower phase. And as you know, anybody who here has been pregnant, kind of out of breath at this point when you're speaking for long periods of time. So Jamie has graciously offered to kind of like spearhead this presentation for us. So thank you.
Yes, and also just a quick thank you to Kelsey for taking the lead on putting the presentation together. I think it looks amazing. I'm so grateful. So, without further ado, just continuing on. So, at a high level, we started Fridays to be a brand and marketing strategy consultancy for brands that are either in growth or pivot mode. And we work primarily with consumer brands in, really important moments of growth, change, or in this economy, even constraint. And our strategies really focus on helping enable them to drive impact across people, process, and spend. That's kind of how we think about how everything ladders up. And I'll let you kind of reference the rest for yourselves. And here's just an assortment of some of the clients that we have worked with over the years. We have a few different tracks in our business. One is toy and game, especially since we spent over 5 years at Relatable, formerly What Do You Meme? And then we also have pretty deep roots in beauty and personal care, and then increasingly better for you products, CPG food, that kind of thing. So let's get into chatting about viral marketing, the reason that you guys joined this webinar today. So, what is the formula for viral content success? In this webinar, we're going to talk about the core systems, emotional triggers, the cultural currency, the distribution amplification, and the timing, as well as how do I action on this? We're going to take you through a 90 to 120 day content strategy roadmap, give you action items. So you will walk away from this webinar not only understanding the importance of viral marketing conceptually, but also understanding like how can you implement this into your business and your brand or for your clients. The attention crisis. So Let me just start by saying by the time I finish this sentence, I've already lost half of you. It's not because my content isn't compelling or because you don't want to be here, hopefully, but it's because the average human attention span has plummeted to just 8 seconds and it is still shrinking. We live in an age of constant interruption. We can't even focus on one task without checking email, responding to texts, jumping into Slack. And the result of that is that 70% of us can't concentrate for more than 20 minutes. And our deep focus time has crashed from 2.5 minutes to just 45 seconds. So this digital chaos has really killed traditional advertising. The old playbook is dead. Today's consumers they don't just ignore ads, they actively block them. So breaking through this noise requires a completely different approach. You need to understand the psychology of content and virality. You have to master emotional triggers and craft messages that will stop the scroll, as well as adapting to each platform's unique dynamics. So how do we create content that doesn't just capture attention, but commands it? We have a basic formula that we have come up with for viral content success. And that is at the highest level, one, create content with a compelling message that triggers emotion and provides cultural currency. Two, strike when timing is perfect. And then three, amplify that successful content. Diving deeper into what makes content truly share worthy. There's a science behind virality, and it basically comes down to mastering two critical components: a strong message that taps into emotional triggers and cultural currency. The first component is emotional triggers. So there are 6 core emotions that we usually talk about that drive sharing or sharing behavior on social. One is awe. So the mind blown feeling where you see something incredible. Two is laughter, which can be a combination of humor and surprise. Three is anger. So think about how quickly outrage spreads on social media, for better or worse, very shareable. Anxiety, which taps into FOMO and urgency and, makes people think like, I want that, I need that.
This is one we've
Or,
leaned heavily into a
yeah, we'll
lot.
talk about this more. Yeah, FOMO, creating FOMO is definitely one of the most successful emotions to tap into in terms of moving product. There's joy, which celebrates wins and positive moments and helps spread good feelings. And then finally, contemplation. So deeper feelings. It could be sadness, empathy, nostalgia, things that make us pause and reflect. And then the second component here is cultural or social currency. This is about understanding that people share things that enhance their personal brand, right? We all love to talk about ourselves. Human beings, inherently have this quality. And every share on social of a piece of content is essentially someone saying, "This is who I am." At a very base level, this ties back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once our basic needs are met, we're driven by psychological needs like belonging or, esteem within the social group. So sharing the right content satisfies our need to belong to our tribe and build our reputation within that community. It's literally in our DNA to want to be in the know. So for that reason, we share content that, one, makes us look smart with industry insights. Two, makes us look funny with, a perfectly timed or relevant piece of humor. Three, makes us look connected by being first with breaking news. Or it signals that we are values aligned by supporting a cause that we believe in or, championing something that we feel strongly about. And the magic happens when you combine both of those elements. So, content that gives people cultural or social currency while also triggering a strong emotion, that is when sharing behavior really becomes almost automatic. People see something like that and they very often will pass it along. Moving into timing, even the most share-worthy content can fall flat without strategic timing. So, 3 timing strategies to consider here. First is planned timing. This is about aligning your content with things like holidays, product launches, predictable cultural moments that you know are coming. So think Super Bowl ads, back to school campaigns, Black Friday promotions, things like that. And when you know something's coming, you can obviously craft content specifically for that moment when you know your audience is already going to be paying attention and primed to shop. Second, reactive timing. This is real-time marketing. So jumping on trending topics while they're hot. Remembering Oreos, you can still dunk in the dark tweet during the Super Bowl blackout was kind of a great example of reactive timing. And the key is having systems in place that help us spot opportunities and respond quickly while maintaining brand voice and quality in those moments. The third is predictive timing. This is definitely the most sophisticated approach. This is anticipating where culture is headed before it gets there and betting on emerging trends. If you can nail predictive timing, you are not just part of the conversation, you're leading the conversation. So, like, this is like an aspirational place to be. Finally, paid amplification is your accelerant. So you want to design content that multiplies itself, right? Putting targeted ad dollars behind strong content after the first 24 hours, you want to assess performance for the first 24 hours, dramatically increases viral potential. But paid isn't your only option for amplification. Third-party amplification is also a crucial part of the strategy, and that comes via a few different ways. One of our favorites is through meme accounts and established niche social media pages. This can be incredibly powerful, and it's a tactic we've used many times across a ton of different industries. You partner with accounts that have already built trust with your target audience. And then when they share your content, it comes with built-in credibility and looks and feels native, even though it's a coordinated effort. Then there's influencer and community network activation. So leveraging your existing relationships to get your content shared by voices that matter to your audience. And then finally, don't overlook PR and media partnerships. Getting journalists' attention and getting those outlets to cover your viral moments when they happen, extend their lifespan and their legitimacy. The key comes in orchestrating all of these elements together. When share-worthy content meets perfect timing and strategic amplification, that is where viral magic happens. So it's really not luck. It's a system that's built to capitalize on potential. Tactical considerations when creating share-worthy content. So the biggest tactical considerations when you're actually coming down to creating content for your brand are one, you want to understand your audience deeply. So this is like researching demographics, knowing their interests and pain points and creating content that resonates. What drives them? What do they think? What do they want? And if you can genuinely solve a problem for them with your product, great start. You need to hook them in the first 2 seconds. I feel like Kelsey and I talk about this so much, we sound like a broken record, but your chance at virality and your content lives or dies in the opening moments. So using pattern interrupts, unexpected visuals, provocative questions, or immediate value props are ways that you can kind of capture their attention up front. If you don't stop them scrolling in the first 2 seconds, it's over. Nothing else matters. They've already moved on. So I know it sounds crazy, but like 2 seconds means everything. You want to speak to them genuinely. So you want to tap into zeitgeist. You want to have obviously like visuals that catch their eye. You want to integrate compelling storytelling and have clear calls to action. But ultimately, it's the authenticity that matters the most. If it feels forced, people are going to know, like it should really feel authentic to your brand. You want to tailor your content to the channel, but when you're thinking about UGC content, you want to lead with TikTok style. So, no matter what social platform you're thinking about, you want to optimize the content for those best practices. Like typically, more visually appealing things do well on Instagram, more like raw UGC style videos do really well on TikTok. But with UGC content, we have found that formatting with TikTok in mind tends to work and scale best.
Also, too, I think it's important to note that not everything on like Instagram Reels will work really well on TikTok or YouTube Shorts, but if you kind of approach the content from a TikTok style, it tends to work well on all platforms.
Yep. And then integrate shoppable features wherever possible. This is just like making it as frictionless as possible for someone to go from being entertained to making a purchase. So, like shoppable posts, product reviews in your content, unboxing videos, anything that kind of just like makes the path easier for them to purchase. Okay, let's look at an example of what makes it great. This is a video for the menstruation crustacean, which is like a menstrual heating pad in the shape of a lobster plushie that we launched a few years ago. And um, I guess I want to show you the video first, and then we can talk about it.
I finally got my hands on a menstruation crustacean. It's literally been out of stock on Amazon, and now they're finally available. Look how cute him is. And why is he a menstruation crustacean? Because you can put him in the microwave for 1 minute, and bada bing, bada boom, you got a heating pad. You don't got to deal with the cords or nothing. Shout out the brand Happy Helpers, because my helper is literally happy. Look how cute him is. I love this. I love this. They have like a whole line of them. Love my menstruation crustaceans. I'm literally obsessed.
Okay, so breaking down what really works here, it has a great hook that capitalizes on emotional triggers and social currency, right? It opens with something that gives people a combo of joy and FOMO, right? She says, I finally got it, like AKA, it's been out of stock, it's popular, like I need it. It immediately kind of shows viewers that the product is cool. And she understands her audience and speaks to them really genuinely. Like this, she wants her audience to kind of get her genuine, authentic review, not for this to look like a polished ad. And her reaction is, I think, really genuine and palpable. It doesn't feel scripted. It just feels like she's having a real-time product discovery moment with her audience. And obviously, her content is perfectly tailored to TikTok. The vertical video, the natural lighting. It just feels intimate, like you're in her bedroom with her, and she's using these strategies like quick cuts and like real-time reactions that give it that kind of signature raw UGC vibe that the platform rewards and works really well. How to spot viral content candidates. Not super mathematical, but this is our favorite way to gut check. When you're testing a piece of organic content, you want to look for these signs. Is it getting quality comments related to the product itself? Are people tagging others in the comments? Is it getting more shares than usual? Back to our menstruation crustacean example, let's just take a quick look at the metrics here, right? 54.6K likes and about 1,700 shares, 170 comments, right? But like diving deeper into the engagement itself, look at the pattern. Like these are not just, emoji comments or comments saying like, I love you, or you're so pretty, or cool post, or whatever. They're actually people showing intent. I found it at Walmart. I got one. Yes, cycle sis. etc. So this is a great candidate for content amplification via targeted ad dollars or whitelisting, and potentially also amplification on meme or niche accounts. This is another video where a client of ours was launching a game. It was a really simple 5-second clip that hit 80 million views and landed them ad week coverage. So yeah, I can click on it. Yeah, we can watch it.
No, it sounds like a little off, but
Yeah, we'll send this around, obviously. So the important things here are like the cultural currency makes you look fun for sharing a drinking game. Emotional trigger, just the pure laughter and everyone relating to I'm gonna mess this up. And the signs of virality. So like we're seeing the engagement come in. It started with organic, and then we amplify with paid media, and press picked it up too. So like this is really like a perfect example of when something can really take off, and 80 million views is pretty crazy. Just some other examples here of engagement that gives away strong content. And I believe the Oko ladies are going to send this around after, so you guys can feel free to, review at your leisure. But basically, you're really looking for urgency, emotional intensity, people who feel emotionally invested in what's going on, kind of becoming advocates for your brand and your product right there in the post. This is typically a really strong correlator with sales. We'll just let you guys look through those. Okay, moving on to some metrics for assessing virality. So what you want to look at really depends on your business model. For distributed brands, like many of our clients, so those selling through a combination of retail and D2C, or those who are retail first, I really recommend focusing on engagement rate, share velocity, and comments to views ratio. These metrics tell you if your content is resonating and creating the awareness that you need across different channels. And then the viral coefficient is particularly powerful for D2C brands because it directly measures kind of how your content is driving new viewers who can convert immediately on your own channels. So if your viral coefficient is 1, that means that your content is self-sustaining. Each viewer is bringing at least one new viewer. Looking at some content first marketing campaign examples that we really love. The Scratch and Sniff campaign from Billy is a great example of how this framework works in action. So they created a street activation where people could literally smell armpits to test their new deodorant. And looking at how they kind of engineered this, they had share-worthy content, combining awe and laughter. So the awe comes from just like the audacity of, I can't believe that they actually have a giant armpit that you scratch and sniff. And the laughter comes from the absurdity and perfect execution. And they're tapping into cultural currency. People shared this content because it was funny. It made them look funny. And it also made them look like, they're in the know about something that's happening in pop culture. The timing obviously was not random. It was timed perfectly with their deodorant launch. They knew they needed to break into a really crowded category where every brand claims to work. So instead of just saying our deodorant works, they created an unforgettable moment with content that proves it. And then amplification, they didn't just hope that people would find this activation, right? It was strategically amplified through press coverage, and also meme accounts. They, amplified with paid, all of this stuff. And each share came with commentary like, I can't believe this is real. And that kind of made the viral momentum accelerate. So the result was a product launch that didn't feel like advertising. It just felt like a cultural moment. And so people weren't feeling like they were sharing an ad. They were sharing kind of an insane story that happened to feature a product. Another quick example is, I don't know if anyone saw, but Uno recently launched a new social club in Vegas. Um, and looking at their share-worthy content approach, they shared around the launch content that inspired awe. So the unexpectedness of a commercial game manufacturer opening a physical social club kind of broke people's brains in a great way. And they created anxiety through FOMO. This wasn't just a place, it's an exclusive experience that you might miss out on. And they nailed social currency by capitalizing on people's desire to look plugged into culture. So when people shared this content, it wasn't just, about sharing Uno content. It was about showing that you knew about this wild, crazy thing that was happening in Vegas before anyone else did, right? They obviously timed it strategically during peak summer travel season, and they amplified with PR. They activated influencers. They fed content into meme accounts for a coordinated effort. And like each thing kind of came together into a great whole. We included some common viral pitfalls, which you guys can, review at your leisure here, but these are just the things that we see most often go wrong. Anything from being too slow to react, to chasing every trend that might not be right for your brand. So in the interest of time, you guys can review that on your own. Want to go over our 5-question viral framework. These are the questions that you should really be asking yourself before you create any piece of content. Do I know who I'm trying to reach with this piece of content? Do I have something authentic and valuable to say? Will this concept tap into at least one emotional trigger? Is this concept share worthy? And is my timing relevant? And there's more detail that you can, read through on your own. But essentially, if you have 3, 4, or 5 yeses, you have something. Maybe with some modifications if it's not, check, check, check 5 times. If you have only 1 or 2, there's a deeper problem that is worth investigating, and your content does not have a high chance of hitting. So it's just a nice rubric to come back to, in the creative process, which can sometimes be very fluid. Getting into the nitty-gritty, here's the 120-day content roadmap of how you put this into action. So during the first 30 to 60 days, this is about foundation and team assembly. You want to hire that chronically online content strategist who lives on TikTok, get your UGC platform set up, spend time researching what's already working in your space. This is about really understanding the landscape and assembling the right set of people and tools to help you scale creative. Days 60 to 90 are test and learn. So hopefully by this point, you're in full testing mode. You're creating 3 to 5 pieces of content a week, at least. You're building relationships with niche accounts and influencers for amplification, and you've started establishing baseline metrics for your brand. This is where you figure out, what are the emotional triggers that work for your brand and your content, and start noticing patterns in what is resonating. On days 90 to 120, this is scaling and optimizing. So hopefully by this point, you're hitting, about 2 viral moments a quarter. And you've got your content amplification network humming. You're starting to understand which content patterns work, and you're building a really repeatable system. The key with this point is just continuous iteration, because things change so quickly on social and with trends and what's working, but you have the foundation in place for how to adapt quickly. This slide gives a detailed breakdown of the action items that we just went over, and it's a good one to review on your own. And just want to note here quickly that if you have a strong team in place already, you might consider adding additional resources like UGC platforms to help you amplify your content. And with any type of UGC influencer affiliate content, briefing practices are super, super important. So that is something that you really want to focus on. And that's it. Really hope that was helpful. Want to leave a little bit of time for Q&A if anyone has questions. And thank you guys so much for giving us 30 minutes of your time.
Yeah, well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. It was really useful. We're a brand from Spanish brand that we create party games, and we are about to launch in the US. Um, I we're looking for we've been creating marketing strategies for a long time, 10 years so far here in Spain. Well, more years because we've been on the business with different things for a long time. And my first question is like typical questions that base assuming that you are the best option for us because we look for like knowledge of the market in the US. We have a strong knowledge in Spain and in Europe, but not that much in the US. Assuming you are like the right ones, like typical questions like what is the you said what is the minimum size of the company revenue? How do you work? What would be the ideal way of working with you? Like other questions like if we work with if you work with our competitors, how does it match? Do you have like Chinese walls inside that things got separate? How do you work um, based on companies similar to us?
Yeah,
Quite
that's a great
quite
question.
small companies that are trying to start in the US.
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, like that's super exciting. I think that would probably be a great conversation for us to offline about in a separate call so that we can really get into the nitty-gritty. And we are happy to do that.
Yeah,
You can drop us a line at either Jamie at wearefridays.com or Kelsey at wearefridays.com. And,
Kelsey,
let's,
probably I'll have to talk to you, Jamie. Kelsey, soon we'll be
yeah.
taking care
You and I
of
will be out for a
other
few
things.
weeks. Yes.
Yeah, we'll share our contact info after the call. And yeah, I mean, we have answers for everything that you asked, but I feel like maybe for the context of the webinar, it would be a little bit too in depth for what we have time for right now.
Yeah, that is the reason why I'm here. So I wanted to say why I'm here.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, we would love to chat offline.
Okay, perfect. And does anyone else have any other questions? I know I have a couple ruminating, but we can take any others.
I see one from Susanna in the chat.
Okay,
For
perfect.
brand building a D2C audience from zero, what do you recommend in terms of number of people on the team and responsibilities? For example, one person in charge of UGC campaigns, one in charge of making content, one posting. Do you want to take this one, James, or you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, there's no kind of universal perfect formula for this, but the things that we feel like are really necessary to have in place in order to be able to scale content production and social growth are an internal kind of content strategist and or marketing manager type of person. And it really depends on skill set, but this person should be able to manage procuring UGC content, briefing influencers, and potentially also channel management. Sometimes that person is also skilled at creating content, but sometimes not. Like the content creation resources might need to be different. And that can either be a person who's in charge of it, or it can be a combination of tools and platforms that you use to leverage different types of content. Or in other cases, the skills I just talked about might fall under the same person, but then it's a different person who's skilled with account growth and management. So the answer is like you can be pretty lean and you can usually get away with just a couple of people really focused on this. And when you get to the point that you want to amplify with dollars, you will need, a paid media strategist. But if you're building from zero and you're still growing, not all of those resources need to be full-time hires. Like there's great ways to leverage freelancers or small agencies in that phase to get going. And then as you grow, you can scale the resource set that you have. I hope that's helpful.
And just to add to that, Jamie and I are pretty big proponents of contract to hire. So we know that, if a client or a brand is cash strapped, you usually want to start small. You don't want to just like hire a big team. And so, you can kind of have a trial period. We've actually, when we were at What Do You Mean, we did this. We came on as like they were our client. We spent 3 months working with them, and then we ended up joining full time for 5 years. So we really like that model. It kind of gives both parties a chance to assess whether it's going to be a good working relationship. And it kind of is lower stakes than bringing someone on full time immediately.
Amazing. Any other questions? Perfect. All right. Well, I see that we have 2 minutes left. So I just had a couple of questions coming from a very analytical background, having run the agency Oko Strategy on our side. So you mentioned that, a goal should be about 2 pieces of viral content per quarter to know if you're on the right track in terms of strategy. Is that based on posting daily, or is there a certain metric of content that you're looking at there?
I would say yes, definitely posting daily. I mean, in the beginning, when you're in that kind of like what we outlined as like the 30 to 60 day part of like the phase, especially if you're starting from zero, I think that that's probably not doable. Like, but by the time you get to 60 to 90 days and you've built your infrastructure, you should be able to be posting like at least once a day, if not at minimum, like every other. So I would.
Yeah. And just to be clear, like we're not saying that every time a brand gets to the 90 to 120 days, they've already had, something go viral. Like viral moments don't grow on trees, but it's about like you're creating the conditions and you're creating the baselines for like what virality or like viral potential looks like for your brand. And those moments may grow over time, but it's about like you should be seeing the signs by, 4 to 6 months in for sure.
Okay, thanks so much. That's super helpful. All right, well, I see we have the clock ticking down now, under 30 seconds. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time to educate our audience at Oko Assembly and give us all of the virality tips that we needed. And thank you again to the community as well for being here and supporting our new endeavor, Oko Assembly.
Thank you so much for having us. We had a blast.
All right.
All
Thanks so much, everyone. And
right.
we'll see you on the next one.
Good.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.